Summer 1944, Normandy. A battered hedgerow line cuts across the French countryside, and behind it, a German Panzer detachment waits in the afternoon heat. Their commander lifts his field glasses and watches a column of American tanks moving slowly through the dust. The familiar silhouette appears, rounded hull, high profile, narrow tracks. To him, it looks more like an overgrown farm vehicle than a battlefield predator. He smirks. That big American car? They call that a tank? He lowers the glasses. A 75mm pop gun and paper armor will sweep them aside in minutes. His officers nod. For years, German crews had been told the same. The M4 Sherman was a mass-produced, under-gunned machine, good for numbers, not for duels. And in the bocage of Normandy, those assumptions felt comforting. The Panzer line had held before. It could hold again. But what the German commander could not see, what he could not imagine, was that among the approaching tanks rolled a new American variant he had never faced. One with a longer 76mm gun, stronger suspension, wider tracks, and far better handling across broken ground. The M4A3E8 Easy 8 was coming, and in less than 10 minutes it would tear open the Panzer line that had looked unbreakable just moments before. When the M4 Sherman entered service in 1942, it was designed to be the standard medium tank of the United States and Allied armies, a vehicle built around reliability, mobility, and mass production. By mid-war, more than any other Allied machine, the Sherman became the armored backbone of campaign after campaign, from North Africa to Italy to the hedgerows of Normandy. Its purpose was clear from the start: a tank that could be built quickly, shipped easily, repaired anywhere, and fielded in overwhelming numbers. But German commanders saw something very different. To them, the Sherman looked under-armored and under-gunned compared to the Panzer IV OSF, H, the Panther, and later the Tiger I. The Sherman's original 75mm M3 gun, optimized for infantry support, struggled to penetrate the thick frontal armor of German tanks at long range. German evaluations mocked its high silhouette, its thinner armor, and its dependence on flanking tactics rather than frontal duels. In their eyes, the Sherman was a symbol of American quantity over quality. What they overlooked was the doctrine behind it. As American analysts and historians later noted, including those cited by Warfare History Network, U.S. planners understood a harsh truth of modern mechanized war. A tank's battlefield value was not defined by one duel, but by the Army's ability to keep it running, replace losses, and maintain pressure day after day. A tank that could be fixed in the field and returned to action in hours was worth more than a heavy machine that sat broken or waiting for specialist parts. Still, by the summer of 1944, as the Allies pushed out of Normandy, the limitations of the early Sherman became painfully clear. Many units faced Panthers and Tigers at ranges where the 75mm gun simply could not compete. Losses mounted, and crews demanded a machine that hit harder. The answer arrived in the form of major upgrades: a 76mm high-velocity gun and the new HVSS suspension, the foundation of the M4A3E8 Easy 8. German forces continued to laugh at the Sherman name, unaware that a very different Sherman was already rolling toward the front. The transformation of the Sherman from a criticized battlefield workhorse into a confident line-breaker did not happen overnight. It came from a series of deliberate engineering leaps, each one grounded in battlefield experience, crew feedback, and America's unmatched industrial capacity. By early 1944, those improvements converged into a single, decisive variant, the M4A3E8 Easy 8. Technical upgrades production of the Easy 8 ran from March 1944 to April 1945, with approximately 4,542 units built. That alone signaled its purpose, not a limited experiment, but a mainstream upgrade to America's armored spearhead. The first and most crucial change was firepower. The EZ-8 traded the original 75-meter gun for a 76.2 3-inch high-velocity cannon, offering far better armor penetration, especially with improved ammunition introduced later in the war. Now, American tank crews could challenge the Panzer IV and Stu-G3 frontally at typical combat ranges, something far more difficult with the older gun. Equally transformative was the introduction of the HVSS, horizontal volute spring suspension. This new suspension system, paired with wider tracks, dropped the tank's ground pressure dramatically. The result? Smoother handling, superior cross-country mobility, and a steadier gun platform. Crews quickly noticed the difference. Where older Shermans bucked and bounced across rough ground, the EZ-8 rode with a confident, almost fluid motion, allowing faster follow-up shots and more accurate fire on the move. The turret also received refinements. The longer 76mm gun required additional stabilization and internal rearrangements, resulting in improved balance and smoother traverse. And behind the gun shield, American engineers introduced wet stowage, a redesign of ammunition racks using liquid-filled compartments to reduce the risk of catastrophic fires if the armor was penetrated. Studies later showed this feature significantly decreased ammunition explosions, directly increasing crew survivability. Taken together, these upgrades created a version of the Sherman that was not just incrementally better, it was tactically different. Stronger gun, smoother ride, safer interior, better mobility. A tank built not just to support infantry, but to push forward with purpose. Tactical impact on U.S. armored doctrine. The arrival of the 76mm Sherman, and especially the EZ-8, changed how American armored units fought. Where earlier Shermans excelled in combined arms roles, the EZ-8 added something crews had long wanted, a real chance to counter German armor on equal terms. Against the common German vehicles of 1944, Panzer IVs and Stu-G3s, the EZ-8's gun and mobility gave American units the confidence to engage rather than avoid. And yet the United States never abandoned its broader doctrine. Tanks were meant to operate with infantry, artillery, and air support, rather than dual heavy German armor head-on. But now, with the EZ-8, American tank battalions possessed a sharper tool. They could launch quick thrusts, exploit breakthroughs, and seize ground before the enemy could reorganize. The numbers helped too. By war's end, more than 49,000 Shermans of all variants had been produced. The EZ-8 didn't replace that foundation, it enhanced it. Logistics, training, and maintenance systems already built around the Sherman could absorb the new variant with minimal disruption. That meant units could field EZ-8s quickly and in meaningful numbers, reinforcing frontline battalions at the moment Allied forces needed them most. Preparing to break the line. American planners envisioned the EZ-8 not as a rear-line support vehicle, but as a front-rank breakthrough tank. Its improved gun and exceptional suspension allowed U.S. forces to strike faster, maneuver harder, and sustain pressure even in difficult terrain. Yet German forces continued to underestimate the Sherman name. They saw the same silhouette and assumed the same vulnerabilities. What they did not see until it was too late was a far more formidable machine rolling toward them, a tank capable of closing distance, firing accurately on the move, and driving straight through positions that earlier Shermans struggled to breach. The EZ-8 was the answer to a battlefield crisis and the beginning of a new American advantage: speed, stability, firepower, and unstoppable momentum. Battle Operation Ericourt, Lorraine, 1929 September 1944. The true proving ground for the upgraded 76mm Shermans and among the earliest large-scale appearances of what would soon include the M4A3E8 EZ-8 came in the rolling hills and morning fogs of Lorraine during the Battle of Ericourt. It was September 1944, and the German army, desperate to halt Patton's rapid advance, launched a series of counterattacks using fresh armored formations equipped with Panzer IVs, Panthers, and assault guns. They expected American armor to crumble. After all, many German officers still believed the Sherman was an inferior machine that relied solely on numbers. They were wrong. On 19 September, the opening day of the battle, elements of the U.S. 4th Armored Division, fighting with a mix of Sherman 76mm and newly arrived HVSS-equipped tanks, met the first wave of German armor. The Americans seized the initiative. Using the Sherman's faster turret traverse, superior coordination, and far better radio communication, U.S. tank commanders maneuvered through the fog, flanking German formations that were advancing in rigid, pre-planned lines. Within hours, the first German assault collapsed. Reports from the battlefield show that German tank losses were significantly heavier, while American losses remained comparatively low. The sharper 76mm gun proved decisive at the short to medium ranges typical of Lorraine's hills and hedgerows. Where earlier Shermans had struggled, the upgraded variants punched through Panzer armor with far greater confidence. The German expectation that the Sherman would fold in a frontal fight vanished almost instantly. As more American units received HVSS-equipped tanks, including the type that would soon be standardized as the EZ-8, the momentum shifted further. U.S. crews found they could fire accurately on the move, reposition quickly, and exploit gaps faster than German units could react. Again and again, U.S. armor shattered German counterattacks in minutes. Every time the Germans tried to form a new line, American tanks, faster, more stable, and now better armed, pushed straight through. It was here, in Lorraine, that the German belief in Sherman inferiority finally collapsed. For the first time, American armor demonstrated not only overwhelming numbers, but technical superiority at the decisive point. And once the EZ-8 began appearing in strength, the outcome became inevitable. The Panzer line could no longer hold. The arrival of the M4A3E8 EZ-8 marked a strategic shift in the armored balance of power in Western Europe. For the first time since 1942, German commanders could no longer assume dominance in medium tank engagements. The Panther and Tiger still held raw technical advantages on paper, but they were few in number, slow to repair, and increasingly starved of fuel, spare parts, and trained crews. Against them stood a growing American armored force equipped with faster, more reliable, and now far more lethal Shermans. As EZ-8s entered frontline battalions in late 1944, U.S. and Allied offensives gained a new level of momentum. In the Ardennes, during the Battle of the Bulge, units equipped with 76mm Shermans and HVSS tanks reacted quickly to German breakthroughs, counterattacking before Panzer divisions could consolidate their gains. In the push toward the Rhine in early 1945, the improved Sherman variants gave American armored columns the freedom to exploit gaps rapidly, turning local penetrations into sweeping operational advances. American doctrine evolved with the machine. The Sherman was no longer viewed purely as an infantry support tank. The EZ-8 allowed armored battalions to take on more aggressive tasks, leading assaults, seizing key road networks, and breaking through improvised German defensive screens. The tanks increased accuracy on the move, better survivability, and improved firepower, meant that U.S. formations could maintain pressure continuously, something the shrinking German armored force could not counter. By 1945, German Panzer units were collapsing, not simply because of attrition, but because they faced an opponent that had achieved the ideal wartime combination: mass production, battlefield adaptation, and logistical endurance. The same Sherman once mocked as cheap and thin-skinned now existed in a refined, hardened form and in overwhelming numbers. In the end, the very tank the Germans laughed at became the machine that shattered their final defenses. The EZ-8 proved a simple truth of American wartime engineering: Quantity matters, but quantity improved at the right moment can change the course of a war. In the end, the story of the EZ-8 is a reminder that the enemy's judgment is not destiny. The early Sherman was far from perfect. Crews knew its limits better than anyone. But war rewards nations that can learn fast, adapt faster, and produce at a scale the battlefield cannot ignore. The M4A3E8 embodied that philosophy: an upgraded gun, smarter engineering, better survivability, and the industrial muscle to field it in meaningful numbers. For students of American military history, the Sherman is already an icon. But it was the EZ-8 that truly transformed the U.S. Armored Force from a supporting arm into a line-breaking instrument of momentum and decision. It proved that innovation layered onto mass production isn't just an advantage, it's a war-winning formula. As one veteran later said, "When the enemy laughs at you, that's when you're closer than ever to proving them wrong." If you enjoy stories of American armor, engineering breakthroughs, and the machines that shaped victory, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. More episodes are on the way. This episode highlights technological and tactical advantages used by Allied forces. Content is documentary, not propaganda.